Alright, it's the final part. I have 29 minutes on my phone. I'll end this video here and I'll watch my show on my TV. And then by that time, my step parents should connect the internet, and I'll upload for you guys to watch. Obviously, I'll go to bed. I'll set my alarm for 6 o'clock, and I'll work on my book. Maybe work on my book with my youngest stepbrother, edit it, and what? And I will make a video, and I'll go to the store and get my smokes. Come back, and same usual. Enjoy the show, obviously. But my second video today might be like a shorter video. It might be a 1 hour, maybe 10 minute video. It just depends what time I wake up. Yesterday I woke up at like 8 o'clock, man. Yesterday, so if I wake up at 8, I'll only be able to make like a 1 hour video. But I'll set my alarm for 6:37, 6 o'clock. That way I can work on my book before I make my video. Because my book is my priority. It's the last hope of me being king with VJ, man. Without my book, I'm fucked, man. I'd be what? I'm gonna stay poor for the rest of my life. Because I have the keys and I wrote my book, I can now make my easy billions for me and my wife, obviously. That's why God gave me these stupid keys. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that thought will cross Peter Jackson's mind. All you Lord of the Rings nerds on Lord of the Rings Reddit who love J.R.R. Tolkien, obviously. I'm a J.R.R. Tolkien fan, but I'm not a Lord of the Rings nerd. I don't know that much. I know a little bit about Lord of the Rings, about the world of. I know a little bit about Lord of the Rings, obviously, because I've watched the movies many times. I've read the Lord of the Rings books, obviously. But I told you, Lord of the Rings. For me to fully understand Lord of the Rings, I have to read it like 5, 6 times, man, to understand a good like 30% of it. To understand like 25% of it, I have to read it like 5 times. Lord of the Rings. It's a complex book to understand. Hence why I'm so shocked that Peter Jackson pulled it off. I'm like, yeah, I can never adapt a story like Lord of the Rings. It's too complicated for me because I wasn't born with an intelligent mind like Peter Jackson and all them. I was born with a creative mind, but I wasn't born with an intelligent mind like all these fucking smart directors and all them. You see what I'm saying? I guarantee you, even Peter Jackson had a tough time adapting Lord of the Rings. And that's why you have to cut out a bunch of stuff, man. Yo, Ivan, Lord of the Rings is a fucking drag to fucking adapt, man. So, whereas your story is so much easier to adapt, so much easier to follow all your scenes. Your world building isn't as big as J.R.R. Tolkien. J.R.R. Tolkien has all these lands, all these characters, all these descriptions. Like, it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? And all his lands are all like 4 days from each other. And it's tough to adapt that when you what? It's tough to adapt that when you adapt it to the base, obviously. Whereas for my movie, all the lands are all a day and a half, 2 days from each other. It's not that bad. A day and a half away from each other. And it's easier to adapt that kind of story. Whereas Lord of the Rings, because all the lands are all like 2 or 3 days from each other, 5 days from each other, Peter Jackson obviously had a tough time portraying it on screen, obviously. For example, when Arwen rode to Rivendell, obviously, remember when she was on her horse? That took 6 days. But Peter Jackson didn't show scenes of Arwen camping with Frodo and all stuff. No, she was riding on her horse for 6 days. Obviously, it's tough. It's tough to adapt that to the screen. That's why Peter Jackson, yeah, Ivan, the Lord of the Rings was a fucking drag to adapt. Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough story to adapt because J.R.R. Tolkien's world building is so in depth, man. It's crazy, man. Yeah, all you Lord of the Rings nerds on Lord of the Rings Reddit. I'm saying all you Lord of the Rings nerds on Lord of the Rings Reddit, obviously. All you Lord of the Rings nerds on Lord of the Rings Reddit who love what? Who love what? Who love J.R.R. Tolkien, obviously. Once you read my book, you're going to become crazier Lord of the Rings fans than even what? You're going to become crazier Lord of the Rings fans than you even are what? You're going to become crazier Lord of the Rings fans than you even are what? You're going to become crazier Lord of the Rings fans than you even are what? You're going to become crazier Last of Us Zane's fans than you even are Lord of the Rings. Because Zane's is a better story than Lord of the Rings. Obviously. And all the Lord of the Rings fans who love J.R.R. Tolkien, trust me, you think I'm crazy. Once you read my book, it's finally going to hit your minds. Holy shit. Ivan's book is... I'm enjoying Ivan's book far more than I am fucking J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. You know what I'm saying? I'm enjoying Ivan Zane's book far more than I am fucking Lord of the Rings. You know what I'm saying? The Lord of the Rings, even though it's a masterpiece, man, it's a drag to fucking read. Yeah, Lord of the Rings is a kind of book I can only read maybe 3 times in my life. I can't read Lord of the Rings any more than 3 times in my life. Because after I read it, will you read it again? Yes, I'll most likely reread the Lord of the Rings trilogy maybe when I pay the fee, maybe. I might reread it again. While I pay the fee, I'm going to read Lord of the Rings to get my mind off death, obviously. To get my mind off death, I might read Lord of the Rings books to get my mind off things. Go in my room and reread the whole thing again. But this time when I reread it, I'm going to skip the prologue because the prologue is boring. I'm going to skip the prologue. Obviously, I'm going to skip the prologue. I'm going to skip the prologue, obviously. You see what I'm saying? This time when I reread it, obviously. Obviously. Obviously, right? Obviously. Yeah. Hence why what? Hence why Peter Jackson was shocked, obviously. My book is a little raw in some sections, obviously. When you read it, you'll see what I mean. There's some sections in my book that are really good, and there's other sections where it's pretty good, but you can tell some sections are a little bit raw. Ivan could have used an editor in a few sections of his book. Ivan, what percentage of your book is raw? I don't know. A good maybe 5% of my book is raw, a little bit raw. Not completely raw, no, a little bit raw. There's some sections where I read, the dialogue doesn't flow as well as other sections. Whereas there's some sections where my dialogue flows perfectly, and there's other sections where my dialogue doesn't flow as well. But still a good dialogue, and the story flows well, and it's a masterpiece. You see what I'm saying? Because all these authors out there, like George R. R. Martin, J.K. Rowling, Steven Erikson, Brandon Sanderson, they all have editors to help them. So what they do is they write their book, obviously, and then they send their draft to the editors, and the editors polish up their work, obviously. They might change a good maybe even 30% of what they wrote. So all these guys have help from the editors at the publishing houses, obviously. Whereas Ivan did everything on his own. Yes, my younger stepbrother edited my book, obviously, but he only edited my grammar and sentence structure. That's it. And he tweaked a few of my dialogue, and that's it. Tweaked what, like a tiny piece of a little bit of my dialogue. I did everything on my own. You know what I'm saying? That's why Peter Jackson and all those directors in Hollywood and studios that's we shocked. Holy shit! Ivan wrote this book, man. This is a fucking masterpiece. All the Hollywood execs are gonna want to get their hands on my story so bad. Man, I want to get my hands on this. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Amazon, Disney, Warner Bros., Universal, Paramount, New Line Cinema, Netflix are all going to want to get their hands on my book, obviously. Because they know if they adapt my story to the big screen, they're going to make their money. I told you, I don't want anyone touching my story. I don't want the Hollywood elites touching my story. As what? As I know what I'm doing. If I guaranteed Hollywood would put like $200 million towards Zanus. If you put $200 million towards Zanus, the movie won't be as good. I'll tell you right now. If you put $200 million towards Zanus, the movie won't be as good. It won't be as good. You need to put what, $1 billion towards it. If you put $200 million towards Zanus, the movie won't be as good. It'll still be a masterpiece, obviously, but I can't see it being Lord of the Rings if you put $200 million towards it. You need to put like $1 billion towards that kind of story, man. Have Eretah be the Walking Devil himself. Ephesus be the Walking Devil. Have unheard of action sequences better than the Helm's Deep battle in Two Towers. If you want a better war than Helm's Deep, you got to pour a lot of money towards special effects. $400+ million. Pour a lot of money towards the extras, costumes, armor, and weapons. The set building, that way your world looks way more natural, but your world will even look better than even Pandora, Avatar, and even Middle Earth in Lord of the Rings. Yeah. I know what I'm doing. You need to do that, obviously. It is very important that you do that, see what I'm saying? You need to do that. You need to do that. You see what I'm saying? You need to do that. Obviously. You need to do that, obviously. You need to do that, obviously. You need to do that. Right? Ivan, what were you saying? So I told you, think something like, I don't know, Pandora. Think something like, the world will not look like Pandora, no, but the world will look amazing like Pandora. You're looking at an advanced fantasy world, except the world looks natural. Think something like what you got from Pandora, man. An advanced fantasy world, except the world looks natural. Think something like Rivendell for the north. It's holy. It has this holy appearance. It's a holy land. Xaios is a holy, beautiful land, and that's where Takis lives. Takis is the heir to the Northern Kingdom, obviously. Whereas the South is cursed, not an heir that's the king of the South, and lives in Barak. And Barak is not beautiful. Barak is cursed. It's like Isengard. It's a cursed land. It's cursed, obviously. That's what we're looking at Masters that I wrote. Yeah, man. You're looking at a masterpiece that I wrote, man. Something amazing. Yeah. Ivan, how good? So good. So good. Peter Jackson and Mel Gibson are going to really, really compete for that job. They're going to want to get their hands on my story so bad. Because Peter Jackson's into fantasy, man. He loves fantasy. Hence why he'll want to get his hands on my story. I want to get my hands on Ivan's Last of story so bad. Peter Jackson's going to want to direct movies. Mel Gibson's going to want to direct movies so bad too. All the directors, like Quentin Tarantino, you know what I'm saying? Christopher Nolan, Ridley Scott, James Cameron, you know what I'm saying? Martin Scorsese, you know what I'm saying? All these what? All these great filmmakers. Steven Spielberg. All these filmmakers are going to want to get their hands on my story. But I told you, I'm not selling my rights to a Hollow company. As if I do, they rip me off and they're going to take all my money, obviously. Ivan, we'll give you $1 billion for the rights of your book to adapt your book. Look, if you guys think I'm stupid, like I'm gonna make my tens of billions of dollars. Why would I give you a billion? Why would I sell my rights to you guys for $1 billion? Some of them might even offer me $2 billion. My guys, I'm not stupid. If I fund it myself, me and Vijay will make way more money. We're gonna make our like $62 billion, $50 billion, $55 billion off the movie. $50 billion off the movie we're gonna make. You see what I'm saying? We're gonna make, I don't know, 33 to like 60 billion bucks for the movie, depending on how much people buy it. Obviously, why the fuck would I sell my rights to you guys for $2 billion when I'm gonna make way more when I can easily fund the movie myself? I know I made my $16-17 billion off my book. I can easily take $90 of my own money and fund it myself. Easily take $100 of my own money and build my own studio office and build my special effects team building for where all the departments are going to work, and easy afford it. Why the heck would I sell my rights to a Hollow company and have you guys what? Ruin my fucking story. Either ruin my story or what? Or what? Or sugarcoat my story, change a bunch of things in my story. And I guarantee you Hollywood would change a lot of things in my story. You know what I'm saying? They would have Erethat be some wolf on four legs, some PG-13 wolf on four legs, some werewolf. They'd put $200 million towards the movie. The movie wouldn't be as good. It will be okay. It won't be as good as Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. I don't want anyone touching my Last of Xaios story. Xaios is my baby. I don't want anyone touching my fucking story. Hence why, if Hollywood does call me, I'm not selling my rights to a Hollywood company. Obviously. But all the directors in Hollywood, all the studio execs, guys like Bob Chapek, David Zaslav, Walter Hamada, you know what I'm saying? Kevin Feige, you know what I'm saying? All these, well, Kevin Feige, and they all work in Marvel, right? But all these studio execs are going to want to get their hands on my story. Oh, holy shit, Ivan wrote a masterpiece, man. This is an amazing story, yeah. Ivan wrote a fucking masterpiece, man. This is a fucking amazing story Ivan wrote. This is the best story ever told. The best fantasy story ever told. I'm not going to say Xaios is the best story ever told, because it's just, I don't want to be cocky and I don't want to embarrass myself. Xaios is the best fantasy story ever told. And I believe it will be the best movie trilogy ever made. Will it be the best movie ever made? It's debatable. You can argue the individual Lord of the Rings movies could be better, or The Godfather if you want. I highly doubt, though. But as a trilogy as a whole, I can't see anything topping that, man. I can't see any trilogy topping that kind of story. Takis, born as a kid, he doesn't know about the Devil Wolf King, and he finds out his destiny, he fights the Erethat Devil himself. Yeah, man. Remember when Neil fought Smith in the rain? Think of an epic battle like that for for me and Eratan for Fool. It's an epic battle. You have this big war, and then towards the end of the war, Takis fights Eratan for Fool. You get this epic battle in the sky, and they fight. Yeah, something epic. Yeah, the Battle of the Ages, something epic. Yeah, man. Looking at a masterpiece. I told you, even though Xanus is a masterpiece, there are some sections in my book that's a little raw, obviously. A little bit raw. Trust me, you'll see what I mean. You'll read some sections, you'll read some chapters. Okay, this chapter is like almost perfect. You know what I'm saying? It flows perfect. In other chapters, when you get to Land in Chaos, you can tell that chapter is a little bit raw. There's some sections that are a little bit raw. I even could have used an editor for some of these scenes. But still, it's still fucking interesting. It's still a masterpiece, yes. There's some sections in Volume 3 where the dialogue is a little bit raw. The story is a little bit, some sections a little bit raw, obviously, but it's still a masterpiece. I wrote an amazing story. You see what I'm saying? I know how to tell a good story. There Peter Jackson was shocked, like, holy shit, Ivan came up with this story on his own with no fucking help. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can never come up with a story like this. And once you start thinking, the reason why all you Lord of the Rings, there's Lord of the Rings Reddit, and Peter Jackson, and you know what I'm saying, and Mel Gibson and all them, and all the Hollywood execs are going to be shocked, because once you start thinking about the plot, about, like, the prologue when Taki says it's time, Taki generation is lucky generation, obviously. You know what I'm saying? You start thinking about the plot, the deep plot, and Taki's and Aggie, like, holy shit. You read the Walking with the Axe chapter, like, holy shit, Ivan wrote a masterpiece, man. This is a fucking powerful, amazing story. Yeah, it's a fucking masterpiece, guys. I wrote an amazing story, man. Every day I go over, every week I go over my book. You know what I'm saying? On my phone, obviously. My save file, my Hotmail, obviously. I go over and I read. When I go over my book with my youngest brother, and I'm editing my book, every time I read, I'm always hooked. I'm like, holy shit, this book is sick. This is interesting. Yeah. I wrote a masterpiece, guys. Better than J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. Yeah, man. I wrote a masterpiece better than J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, guys. As I finished the book, I read all 3 books of Lord of the Rings. I'm telling you right now, even though it's a masterpiece, I'm engulfed in the world building and all stuff, the story is a little bit boring. Ivan, what would you rate Lord of the Rings? I don't know. I'd rate Lord of the Rings 9.7 out of 10. It's the almost perfect story, pretty much, Lord of the Rings. 9.2 out of 10, I'd rate Lord of the Rings. I'm putting it down a little bit because the one flaw about Lord of the Rings is that it's too overly descriptive, and the writing is very dry, obviously. Hence why, but even though it's very dry and it's over descriptive, it's a little boring, the story is still a masterpiece. The world building the whole thing is a masterpiece. That's why I'll give it a good 9.2 out of 10. That's a good. Whereas Xanus is like a 9.8 out of 10, man. It's the almost perfect story. No story is perfect. That's why I'll give Xanus a 9.8, 9.7, 9.6 out of 10. And Lord of the Rings, I give it a 9.2 out of 10. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Because Xanus is the almost perfect story. It's not a perfect story because no story is perfect, obviously. Even Xanus has a few flaws. Like, Ivan, what are the flaws in your story? I don't know. The character of Patrice. There's a very minor character. You know what I'm saying? He's not developed that well, obviously. The Eagles and Crows are not developed that well at all. Those are some minor flaws in my book, obviously. Hence why I'm going to add more scenes with the Eagles in the movie, obviously, to make it more interesting. Famia, there's not much. Famia is one flaw. Like, Eratan for Fool don't really talk about Famia that much. They don't talk about Famia, you know what I'm saying? Even though Famia is Fool's mother. There's a few flaws in my book, obviously. Yeah. Those, I would say, would be the flaws in my book. And I don't describe the lands that well. I give vague descriptions. I give vague descriptions of where the humans are, where they're at. Everything is vague. Because but I describe the lands through the character's perspective. Hence why the world building still jumps out on the page when you read my book. Because I know if I spend time being overly descriptive like J.R.R. Tolkien, I know my book will become boring. Hence why I stay away from overly descriptive sentences describing the lands, the sunset, the trees. I don't do that. What the character looks like, I don't describe at all what the characters look like at all. I leave it all vague. That way it gives John Howe and all of them more imagination for creating the worlds. I know what I'm doing. Because John Howell, yeah, Ivan, because you gave vague descriptions, we can play around. So, yeah, you can play around with so many ideas for the North, the South. I give vague descriptions. I don't describe what the Valley of Blood looks like. I just say there's a valley, there's dead corpses in the valley, there's crows pecking on dead flesh. That's all I say in the book. That's why I give vague descriptions. You can, me, Peter Jackson, and VJ and all of them, we can play around with all these ideas for the Valley of the Blood, the North, the South, the different atmosphere. I don't describe it that much in the what? In the what? In the book. I give vague descriptions. But I describe the lands. I describe the lands a lot of the times through the character's perspective. Hence why my world building still feels very real, because I describe the lands through the character's perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like Tacitonius, he's like, better is the North. You know what I'm saying? And like Cassius is like, this is Eretat's territory. This is his domain. He is the king of the South. He's the king of this region. You know what I'm saying? But by the characters' descriptions, it makes the world building feel very real. Because I'm a fucking genius. Yeah, even though Ivan gives vague descriptions when he describes the land, the world jumps out on the page. The world building jumps out on the page because he describes the world, the lands and all stuff through the characters' perspective. Yeah, what they say, what they think, what they see. Yes, that's when my world building jumps out on the page. But even then, my world building is not as good as J.R.R. Tolkien's book. As J.R.R. Tolkien's world building is fucking unmatched. It's a fucking crazy, man. He has like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 lands, something crazy. Whereas me, I only have a good like 14. Me, I only have what? I only have like 6 lands in my book, man. You have Zanus, Saphius, Cyrus, Barak, and you have the ancient Gilead city, and you have the city's edge. Obviously. So you have 6 locations pretty much, right? Yeah. I only have a good, like, I don't know, 12 lands in my book, man. My world is small. It's a big world, obviously. You have the North and South, but it's not as big as Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings has huge, crazy world. They have like 20, 30 lands, 40 lands, something crazy. Obviously. My world building does not compete with J.R.R. Tolkien's world building, and my speech and dialogue does not compete with J.R.R. Tolkien. J.R.R. Tolkien has very, very rich speech in his book. Like shields shall be splintered, short swords shall be shaken. You know what I'm saying? A red day, a sword day, the sun rises. Like, I don't have deep speech like that. I have deep speech in my book, obviously. You're pretty just, yeah, Ivan, you have rich speech. You have good speech in your book. But it's not as rich as Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings has very, very rich speech. And it has very, very rich world building. Because what will jump up more in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movie, more than my movie, is the world building of Middle-earth. A bigger world, obviously, and the rich speech and the rich elven tongue. You see Viggo Mortensen speaking the elven tongue, Legolas speaking the elven tongue, Hugo Weaving speaking the elven tongue, Galadriel speaking the elven tongue. It's a lot more richer, the world building, obviously, but the story of Zanus is more richer than Lord of the Rings. That's why Zanus will take the edge. At the end of the day, it comes down to your story. What stories... At the end of the day, movies are meant to what? Filmmakers are meant to tell great stories. If your story is better, your movie is a better movie, obviously. You see what I'm saying? But the world building of Lord of the Rings movie and book will stand out more than my book and my movie, obviously. And the speech, the elven tongue, will stand out more than... Well, the speech and elven tongue is part of the world building, right? The world building of Lord of the Rings will stand out more than my movie, obviously. But my story will stand out more than the Lord of the Rings. Because Zanus is a better story than Lord of the Rings. It's a richer story. The story is rich. Ivan, your story is so rich. It's like the almost perfect story. Yeah, it's the almost perfect story. Whereas Lord of the Rings, the story is rich, obviously, but it's not as rich as Zanus. But the world building is richer, and the dialogue is richer. But the story of Zanus is richer than the Lord of the Rings. And that's why all the Lord of the Rings nerds and Lord of the Rings Reddit, all the nerds on fantasy Reddit who love Lord of the Rings, obviously. They're all going to become, once they read my book, they're all going to become crazy Last of Us Zanus fans. Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. When the red carpet happens, when I go on the world tour, you're going to see fans with billboards. You see fans in Canada, fans in America, fans in Europe, China. They're all going to hold like Tactius billboards, Lithia billboards. Kick the devil's ass. Kick the devil's ass. Kick the devil's ass. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Go Tactius. They hold boards. Some people are going to... You guys are going to go to the dollar store. You're going to make these boards. Tactius billboards, Lithia billboards, Tacitonius billboards, Cassius billboards, Papaya billboards, Bell billboards, Mary billboards, Cornelius, Eli, Sirius, Job. You know what I'm saying? Maramis billboards, Queen Sarah billboards. I'm saying, yeah. Eratat, Ephesus, kick Ephesus ass. Kick Ephesus ass. I'm saying, yeah. Something crazy, yeah, man. You're looking at something crazy. You're looking at something crazy for the what? You're looking at something crazy for this fame, man. Yeah, man. That's where my story will beat out. And don't forget, I paid all the Hollywood actors for my Zanus movie more money, their millions, and I gave them a piece of the royalties. I gave them a piece of the royalties. But here's what I'm gonna do. That way, I make sure the actors don't rip me off. If I end up making what? If I end up making something crazy like 50, 60 billion bucks for Zanus, that means a good like 2+ billion people bought my book. Obviously, I will know more than 2 billion people are going to buy my movie. If it's something crazy like that, I'm going to lower the amount for the actors by a lot. I'm going to lower the amount. I'm not going to if I know like more than 2 billion people. If I make like something crazy like 40, 50 million bucks, I will know that more than 2 billion people bought my book. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And what? And if 2 people buy it, but you know what I'm saying? But chances are it's not going to happen. I will lower the amount for the actors, obviously. I won't pay this. I won't give the Zanus actors any more than 0.01. I won't give any of the small Ace actors any more than 0.01. And the bigger ones, I will lower the amount to zero. I will lower the amount to like 0.07, to like 0.1 to like 0.1% around there. With the bigger Acers, I will lower the amount if I know that more than 2 people are going to buy a movie. But because my book is only going to be released in English, you're only looking at about 1 billion people buying it. So it's 2 billion people is highly unlikely. Chances are a good 1 billion people are going to buy my book because it's only the English-speaking world, obviously, for my book. Whereas the movie I'm releasing in a different language, that's why you're looking at least like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5 billion people buying it, obviously. That's why you have to have that rule. Lower the amount if your movie does more, that way these actors don't rip you off. But going back to the Zanus actors, one reason why I know my Zanus movie better, obviously, is because what? I paid everyone more money, man. Because I paid Lord of the Rings crewmen more money, the $150,000, the supervisors, the rich $270,000, $250,000, they're all going to work double harder for me than what they even did for Lord of the Rings. Hence, you'll get a better movie. I know I'm doing. The cinematographer's going to work harder for me. You'll get better shots. You know what I'm saying? The assistant cameramen are going to work better for me. You're going to get better at camera angles, better, all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? The special effects team, whether digital, work hard for me because I pay them more money. You're not going to get those lives appearing out of nowhere like you got for Lord of the Rings, because they worked. I paid them more money, obviously. The actors got paid their millions, and I gave them a small piece of the royalties. They all signed their fat contracts, the biggest movie contract ever for entire cast. They're all going to make their 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 18, 19, $20 million deal they signed. Obviously, yeah. And I paid Peter Jackson more money, hence why Peter Jackson will work even double harder for me than what he even did for Lord of the Rings. Obviously, he took his notes, he's prepped, obviously, and I poured $90 million towards it. Obviously, I'm acting as Takis, Vijay as Lithia, $400 million towards special effects for the world-building action sequences in The Horde of the Wolves. Eric has to tell himself, and you apply that kind of story to the big screen, hence why Zanus will be the better movie than Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings by a slim, slim margin. That's how good my Zanus story will be. Anyways, if this video, I'm going to upload this video soon, and you guys will enjoy the show. It's Ivan Amir, I'm signing out. Peace.